Hi, today I'm interviewing a foster carer. For her own safety, we're going to hide her own identity, and will be speaking also to her two daughters. My name's Michael Borusiewicz. My dealings with the Department of Child Safety in Queensland, I dealt with the Child Safety Complaints Line, the Tribunal for Child Safety Complaints, the Townsville Child Safety Complaints, and the Cairns Child Safety Complaints, and the Minister for Child Safety Complaints, Phil Reeves. And I've been treated like absolute crap by all of them, and they kidnapped and murdered my 2-year-old son, Luke Borusiewicz. The last time Luke was taken, I called the police, as did the neighbours, after his mother was dragging him across the road, his feet dragging, and he was screaming, and she was pissed out of her brain, and I stopped her at the gate, and I didn't want to cause an argument, so I let her in. But then I called the police, and the neighbours had already called the police because it was child abuse. And the police have come, and they've taken Luke. I was drug-free for 6 months. I had a reference from a senior sergeant of police. Didn't matter what I did, and they still wanted to give my little boy back to his mum. They shifted him back to Cairns, even though the judge said in court he's not allowed to go back to Cairns. He stays in Townsville because both his parents are in Townsville. And it's a lot deeper than that. He died with a 74-year-old foster carer who already had 3 other children. He had a lump on the back of his head the day he died, scratches on his penis, scratches on his face, and the police saying that there's nothing suspicious. Child Safety the Minister, Phil Reeves, has sent me a letter saying it's my fault my son died when I tried to get him out of that house. He has lied and said I never tried to get him out of the house. The foster carer has lied, saying she never told me. I rang that morning straight after she'd banged him on the head and said he's banged himself on the head and gone to bed. And now she's saying she didn't even know he banged his head, which is a straight out lie. Anyway, that's a bit about my background. Can you tell me a bit about your dealings with the Department of Community Services? Which department have you dealt with?
Atherton Child Safety, Queensland.
You've only dealt with Atherton or any other departments?
No, they're the main ones.
All right. Now, who's the main person you've dealt with?
Vicki Reimann.
Vicki Reimann, and I've heard a lot about her, but what can you tell me about Vicki Reimann?
She is a bully, a corrupted bully. She intimidates children. She victimizes people, carers, children, parents, lies, fabricates accusations, just lies.
I'm going to pause for a second, get a notepad. So when you say she's a bully, has she bullied you herself?
Yes, she's threatened me with my children to be taken off me because I wouldn't answer their questions.
And what was she questioning you about?
The death of my son.
And how old was your son?
He was 2 days old.
And what did that have to do with your other daughters?
They were just using everything to get to me, to make me angry, so I react, and to make me out to be crazy. Yeah,
well, I can relate to that. They do that to a lot of people. What about the corruption? Have you seen any corruption?
Yeah, I've had documentations that were given to me by caseworkers, and when I was investigated, those documentations were not in my file. So then I was accused of forging letters.
So I've seen other docs workers claiming that she has been tampering with files in the department. Have you had your files tampered with?
Yes.
And have you told the government about this?
Yes.
And what did the government do?
They passed the buck to each agency.
So do you think Vicki Reimann has got protection in the government?
Yes.
Well, do you know anyone higher up who's protecting her?
No. I don't know who it is.
Right. And do you think she's protecting anyone else in the department?
Herself.
Is there any other names she works along with that are in on the corruption?
Fiona Godfrey.
And what does Fiona Godfrey do?
She's a team leader.
Right. At which office?
She was in Atherton, and now she's been moved to Edmonton and Cairns.
Right. And I've read a lot about Fiona Godfrey too. She's hurt a lot of families. Would you say that's true?
Yes.
Do you know any instances? Can you tell us any stories about Vicki Reimann or Fiona Godfrey in particular?
Many carers have, when we talk with carers in a group, they've all complained about Fiona Godfrey threatening them with their foster care and licensing. Basically, if we don't stop complaining, she'll have to consider cancelling our foster care licences.
And is that easy for her to do?
Yes. She just has to make a false allegation.
And does anyone check up on their statements that they're true, or they just get away with anything?
They get away with anything.
And
they don't need evidence, but carers and parents do.
What about the kids you've had in foster care? Have they been taken off you for the wrong reasons by Vicki or Fiona, and what's happened to them?
They've been shipped from home to home. I know of 3 of the children that I have are now put in group homes and are now pregnant, and they're 14 and 15.
And how often does this happen?
A lot.
And the government keeps it quiet?
Yep, and they get their children taken off them.
If they say anything?
Yeah.
And what about these group homes? Do you think they're a good thing?
No, it's just an orphanage.
And why do they need group homes?
Because they can't keep their carers.
What have they done to you and other carers that you'd like to complain about, that you think isn't right?
Just the false allegations.
They make up stories about you.
Yes.
So do you think they would make up stories about parents too to remove their children?
Yes, I've seen it.
And how do they get away with it then?
Because they're a law upon themselves.
So there's no network or safety net
for anybody
to check up on anything Vicki Reimann or Fiona Godfrey does.
No.
And that's just one office. Do you think it happens in our other offices?
Oh, I'm sure it does.
And now that Fiona Godfrey's in Edmonton, do you think she's better off, or Edmonton's better off? Or
I don't think so. She'll spread the hatred there too.
do you think she's what makes you think that she's got hatred?
Because I've already heard things.
Yeah, can you tell us any of it?
She abused 2 foster children that's been with a carer for many years.
When was this?
A few months ago.
Right.
The foster carer was very upset and contacted that caseworker. The caseworker had already knew that this was happening. She was at a loss of what to do because her hands are tied, and rang up the Commission for Children and whoever else to ask for help.
Do you think the department has lost good workers because of Vicki Reimann and
Oh, of
Fiona?
course, yep. They were separated. That's why Fiona was sent to Edmonton.
Because they're working together to back each other's lies up.
Yep.
And
every carer up in their tabling are scared of Vicki Reimann.
And can you tell us any more stories about either of the 2 banshees? Oh, that's okay. We'll come back to that. Now, what do you think they can do to improve Atherton docks?
Close it down.
And then what?
Start off fresh.
Yeah, get rid of.
Clean it up.
Get rid of the management.
It's higher. Even ex-caseworkers have rang me personally to tell me, you just keep fighting.
Do you think there should be charges laid against Vicki Reimann and Fiona Godfrey?
Yes.
What for?
For mentally hurting my children.
This is your own personal story. We'll get back to that then.
Okay.
So what's the story with? We'll start with one child at a time. How many kids have you got? That you got 2 daughters, right?
Yep.
And you've lost one, and you've got foster kids. You've got a couple of foster kids.
Mhm.
And so what did they do to your oldest daughter?
Mentally and not physically, mentally and emotionally hurt her.
Right, and can you be specific?
After some questions that were not relevant to the situation at all, they basically asked questions of who her biological father was.
And she's not with
and
her.
She knew, and they knew that her stepfather wasn't her biological father, the one that brought her up all her life.
So it was a sensitive subject.
Yeah, and it was just a scare tactic for them to use it against her.
So they're asking you about your child who died. They're bringing up things that are, it's not her real dad, but she loves her stepdad like her real dad.
Yep.
And then what, have they threatened her at all?
Yeah, to be taken away from me and leaving behind the foster children.
And why would they threaten that?
To scare my own children into talking.
And what do they want them to say?
What they want them to say.
Oh, yeah, right. So they're putting words in their mouth.
They're using them as pawns against me.
And what about the youngest one? How's she faring?
She's not too well because she was threatened as well, and she already had a mental problem, and they've made it worse. That she really needs to be hospitalised.
And how do your kids feel towards the department?
Hatred.
And what about your foster kids?
The two oldest ones are very scared because they interviewed them at school, and they came home to me saying that the department had interviewed them. I don't like it. They're going to take us away from you. They're going to take us away from you. Every time the department come to school to interview us, we get taken off our carers. So
they're terrified of child safety.
They are.
And they like it with you.
Yeah.
And the child safety came to your daughter's school too, didn't they? And your younger daughters, and tell us about that.
They turned up to her school, pulled her into the office, the principal was present. They were asking questions to her about her father and myself, and she kept repeating, I'm uncomfortable talking to you, I want my mum and dad, I want my mum and dad, and they would not stop. And so she was getting very upset, and the principal asked them to leave the property ASAP.
And is there anything ongoing about as a result of that?
Still being investigated since October, and it's supposed to be finalised within 6 weeks when you get a notification, and it's still going today. And
the child safety doesn't listen to any laws,
no.
They make their own laws, don't they? Yeah. I know all about that. We'll stop for a second.